I got a tattoo on my arm for the distance that my parents traveled to adopt me. And, that's literally like half a world away from where they started out to where they picked me up. I just was processing about how even where we are today is half a world away from where I began, and is even further a world away from where we live now. And just seeing the ripple effects of that decision for them. As real as and as normal as breathing is to me, like, I've known that I was going to adopt.
There will always be children that need to be adopted.
Our purpose, I feel like, is to bring hope to that, to bring new life to that, to bring meaning.
We knew that God was telling us to do this. We knew from so many years before. There just wasn't a question. From when we first got married, we had an adoption change jar, and it just sat on our bookshelf, and every time we had any change, we dropped it in there.
So like the idea that someone's like, yeah, I don't know that this is the best time for you guys to adopt. It's like, well, when are we gonna have our lives together? When you take it out of the context of like we're adopting a child, and you put it in the context of like having a biological child, like if we were to say to anybody, oh my gosh, we're pregnant, no one's like, is this the right time? Like, people are happy, congratulations, and you guys will figure it out, and we'll support you, and that sort of thing. My parents have always had this like silly faith, in a sense, and to some extent I think it comes from their lived experience. Like they have just been in so many places where they've had to depend on God through the work of other people.
I think we're a very different family. When I look at my family here, I'm from Ireland, and I marry a German. My son marries an El Salvadorian, and they adopt a little girl. Our daughter marries an American, and she has two biological children, and she has two children adopted from Ethiopia. And of course we have Zawadi. And it's one thing, we talk about adoption, but I never think of we've adopted Zawadi. He's just our son. And here he is, and he's got one little boy, Cohen, and then he adopts from China.
We had filled out all this paperwork, and we'd submitted it, and we thought our process was going to be like a year. A few weeks before we were submitting kind of our last chunk of paperwork, China's rules around adoption shifted. One of those things was the youngest child in the family had to be at least
3 years old.
3 years old, and our son Cohen was 1.5 at the time. It kind of put a halt on the process. And Aaron was the one that was still like connected through a bunch of Facebook groups and just was like still a part of the community, still seeing a lot of kids' files.
I see this picture of this little girl with blonde hair and blue eyes from China on Facebook. I ask about this little girl's file. The agency's like, are you sure you want to see it? I said, yeah, if it's not any trouble, knowing there was nothing we could do. So see your file, I go through the pictures. I think this is our daughter. But I don't know how, because I know that she's gonna get snatched up by another family that's eligible right now, because she's not gonna be like available in 6 months when we're able to do it.
I remember she called me up out of the blue one day and was like, hey, I just saw this little girl's file. Is it okay if I ask for more information on it.
And this was like 6 months before we were eligible.
And we weren't eligible
to
yet,
be
yeah.
matched. Like, we knew there was nothing we could do, even if we thought she was the right kid.
And I was just like, well, like, why would you put yourself through that? You know, I'm like, we can't, there's nothing we can do.
Even our agency was like, are you sure you want to see her file?
I'm like, you're just signing up for some heartbreak. The rest of that day, like, I think by the end of it, she was like, Zwadi, I think this is our daughter.
I remember Erin sending the information to me in a text message and saying, like, I think this is our daughter. Very strongly and very firm about Kavira. And then I saw a picture and I was like, she's beautiful.
I also realized at the time that I had actually seen her picture a year previously, and I asked about her a year previously, and I didn't realize it was the same girl because she had grown so much. A year previously, she had actually been matched with another family when I had asked about her, and I was like, oh, okay, well, great, she has a family. God just like led us back to this little girl. And so I asked our agency, I just want to confirm that there's absolutely nothing we can do for 6 more months. They were like, well, funny you should ask. We just had a family that got approval from China when their youngest child in the family was 2.5. And I was like, Cohen's 2.5 this month. Can we look at that? Can we pursue that? Well, it's so unlikely that China's gonna give you an exception. I was super scared that China was gonna say no. Really, really fast, we had to get medical reviews and make sure that from a medical perspective, it was something that we could handle. And our agency was like, I don't think you're gonna get all your questions answered. It's coming up on the weekend. The doctors aren't gonna be working, blah, 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 blah. Okay, God came through again, validated the whole thing. We got 5 medical reviews in 30 hours over the weekend. And by Sunday, we were like, yeah, we wanna pursue this. We asked China for the exception. China said yes, and I completely lost it because I was so relieved she was gonna be our daughter. Once we were matched with her, I was like so motivated. I was not gonna let anything get in my way of getting to this little girl. We had to wait a whole nother year until we could bring her home, but seeing her face, knowing her name.
It's like, oh, I have a daughter now, and even just the significance of that for me as a dad was pretty profound.
Being able to ask other parents that were going to the orphanage and say, hey, can you get me a few more pictures? Can you like take this little picture book to her, this little toy or whatever, was so motivating. I was just like, man, I'm gonna fill out every adoption application we are eligible for. I'm gonna do every single thing as fast as I possibly can to get to her stat.
Like I remember when we submitted our application, and we're looking at that mountain of, how are we going to raise these dozens of thousands of dollars to pay for all of this stuff, because we don't have that money at all.
There were so many nights where I would just cry and I would just be like, Zawadi, how are we going to pay for this? Oh my gosh. He was really like, Erin, God's got this. Like, he has been faithful so far, and is he going to stop now? And he was just able to remind me, and I needed that along this process.
This is going to be fun to see how God provides.
I knew it was going to be a hard process because they needed financial support and also support from family and friends in their decisions. So I prayed with them, and I helped Erin with fundraising and garage sales.
That was amazing. We were kind of like carried in a way by people that we knew, by people that we didn't know, by grant agencies, by coffee companies. You know, it was just amazing.
I connected Erin with some of my friends who were very supportive. Erin came to New York City to visit. We had like an event where she was selling jewelry and I was selling my art. And we were both talking about the adoption process to a lot of the church people in New York. They were very supportive too.
At every interval in this process, there was this encouragement that came. We got this grant. And so like we're really motivated and we're really encouraged, and okay, let's fill out another application that's gonna take another 4 hours and be super intense. I think those little validations and those little encouragements kept our hearts from getting super weary. Our bodies were weary.
Yeah, for sure.
But our hearts were not. It's 11/22/2018, Thanksgiving Day. We have 4.5 hours left on our flight to Beijing. This journey is so much more than I thought it would be. It's taught me perseverance, gratefulness, determination, patience, and sacrifice in ways I had not experienced them before. What a holy place to be, to get to see restoration, to see healing, to see brokenness, to get to tend to heart's wounds and scars, to get to learn another person created in the image of God. Kavira, we've come so far to find you. The thought of you and first hopes and whispers of you were beginning around 11 years before you were born. I'm ready. I'm ready to trade paperwork for hugs and kissing away tears. Ready to transition my mind from grant applications to braiding white hair and brushing brown curls with undivided care and attention. Ready to shift looking for typos to gazing into ocean blue and coffee brown eyes with affection and intention. I'm ready to slow down my heart but increase its capacity to love as we add another family member on 11/26/2018. I'm ready to parent two with the best daddy anyone could ask for. Kavira, we've come so far to find you. The thought of you and first hopes and whispers of you were beginning around 2006, 11 years before you were born. You are meant to be. You are so very loved and wanted. We're coming, sweetie. 1,799 miles to go and 3 hours 47 minutes, but we're almost there and coming as fast as we can. 540 miles per hour to be exact. Love, your mom.
It was Sunday night before we were getting ready to go meet Kavira for the first time and bring her home. I think that was just a really profound, significant moment for me, at least. I remember having a hard time going to sleep, you know, because it's all the realities of like, you know, I get to see my daughter tomorrow and like no longer a family of 3, we're like gonna be a family of 4. And,
is she gonna like us? How are we gonna communicate with her?
Yeah, it was.
Does she like the snacks we're packing in her little backpack? We don't even know. Is she gonna be able to see the pictures of the books that we're packing in here?
Mm-hmm.
But what we did know is that we were gonna do whatever we had to do for our daughter, and that we are gonna love her no matter what. Going to the orphanage to pick up our daughter, Kavira. I'm feeling a mix of emotions. I'm feeling excited, I'm feeling nervous, I'm feeling hopeful, I'm feeling like I don't know anything about her. I wish I did. picked out food for her this morning for her lunch, and I was just like, I don't know what she likes. Just hoping it works.
Just trying to be calm. Yeah. I think just taking it all in. You know, I want to be able to remember and yeah, I think that's it.
It took us by surprise a little bit. And so he's like, Aaron, why don't you turn around and look at your daughter? It seemed that she kind of absorbed what was about to happen. They told her, the nannies had told her, like, they got her all ready. She was wearing like 4 layers of clothes, and her hair was done super cute, and she had a little snack in her hand, you know, and she came out, and like you could tell she had been crying, and she was trying to catch her breath a little bit or whatever, and you could tell that they had told her that this transition was happening and that it was time for her to meet her family and go with her family. But from her perspective, like, she's leaving everything that she's ever known. The only concept of family she has is like the people she knew in the orphanage, the nannies that took care of her. So I'm sure it was like super scary and traumatic for her. And she was not excited about meeting us at first. She was scared, and she was timid, and she was sad. But I think that's only an indication of the fact that she was loved and cared for. And we're so thankful. I feel like we will never be able to like express our gratitude for the people that cared for her before we were able to get to her.
I was encouraged by how hard it was for her to leave the orphanage. That was a really emotional time, and you know, just particularly to see how much love she had for, you know, some of her nannies and the love that they had for her. That is, you know, heart-wrenching as that was, to see she has already had the opportunity to experience love and understand what that is and what that feels like and what that looks like. And she's been loved and cared for. And that, that was such a big unknown up until that point. She was in a good place, and she was cared for by people that loved her and cared for her.
I think it was such a question because there can be a stigma, a social stigma around albinism in her culture. Some children with albinism in her country are not treated nearly as well as she was. And they haven't been able to like experience love and attachment. And it's a much harder story for them. But I think she was really like, she had friends. They like did her hair and they played with her and they took her out places. And some of her nannies even paid to get her like baby glamour shots when she was small.
That's a thing.
That's a thing.
Yeah.
When she was saying goodbye to her 2 closest nannies, I didn't expect that watching that would feel like I was intruding on this really intimate, like sacred moment. And it was heartbreaking to watch it, but it felt intrusive, like it was wrong for me to be like experiencing that. And I actually like turned around and walked away to let them have, you know, some time. But I also was so thankful that even though we didn't speak the same language and I didn't know any of what the relationship was and the memories that they had together, the nanny and our daughter, that I was able to like hug them. And as one nanny in particular, we just like looked at each other and hugged each other, and we couldn't speak, but we totally understood what the other person was like feeling or saying, and it meant a lot that I was able to like embrace her.